welcome to our special live event, Living Beautifully with Cancer. My name is Amelia, and I am the founder of How to Breast Cancer at thebreastcancerguide.com. And tonight is really all about you. And this next hour, it's our intention to give you the few tools and practices that you can add to your toolkit as you are navigating this cancer journey, or as you are helping someone that you love navigate theirs. So let's get started. First of all, we always start out with our intention. And when we founded this organization last fall, the intention that we set was to be the breast cancer guide and to serve as a guide for everyone that is navigating a breast cancer journey. And for us, that intention is unwavering because we want to make sure that we continue to provide that safe space for all of you. And so tonight, the inspiration that we had in creating this actually came from my own breast cancer diagnosis that was officially confirmed 3 years ago on this very date. And tonight we're taking what was a really dark moment and actually turning it into a bright moment with the intention to be able to help as many people as possible. And to do that, we thank not only all of you for joining us and for being a part of this, but we also thank a few sponsors and partners that made tonight possible for us. And so I want to highlight a couple of folks that did that. I'll start out first with Living Beyond Breast Cancer. Living Beyond Breast Cancer is a phenomenal organization that for more than 3 decades has been focused on providing the very best resources, the very best tools and trusted information for folks that are going through all facets of breast cancer. I encourage you to get to know them by visiting their website or lbbc.org. Again, a phenomenal organization. Equally important to us is Mediviver, another great partner. Mediviver has shown such a bright light on the metastatic breast cancer component and the ability for people to understand the significance of having better funding and better resources and support for all of those that are navigating a metastatic journey. And the importance of that is also that for metastatic patients, their journey is a lifelong journey. That is certainly the case for me, and it requires that there be a better focus on the kinds of treatments that are available, the kinds of medications, and how we support that research. I encourage you to get to know Mediviver as well. Their website is mediviver.org. All of the proceeds tonight are going to Living Beyond Breast Cancer and Mediviver. We have a couple of other partners that helped us with this. The photography that you saw from our posts and the event publications that we did were done by Deborah Somerville Photography, and the Ray Hotel was gracious to allow us to take some of those photos on their premises. So we're thankful for their support on that. Lastly, I want to highlight the Pinky Society. So the Pinky Society was founded in 2019 by Sergio Andres Mendoza in honor of his wife, Sarah, who passed away from metastatic breast cancer. And since their launch in 2019, they have formed a partnership with Farron Jewelers to create jewelry pieces as well as support the breast cancer community and breast cancer funding by doing fundraising events. And they have been just phenomenal. And in fact, this year, they introduced a new signature jewelry item from the Anais collection that is named after Sergio's daughter. And the proceeds from the sales of those jewelry items are going to be dedicated fully to breast cancer support. But tonight, they actually gave us one of the prizes. We'll have one lucky winner tonight that will have their choice of either a ring, a necklace, or an earring set from the Anais collection that they're doing as part of this event this year. So very thankful for the support. So what are we talking about tonight? Let's give you a little bit of a view into our agenda and how did we come to this? We're talking about, as I said, beauty, and we're looking at this not just from the typical angles that beauty is often talked about, which is what happens on the outside or the cosmetic pieces. We're looking at beauty from all the facets of how we feel on the inside, beyond our thoughts, what we eat, how we move, what kind of exercises we choose, and how that then all shows up on the outside. And the inspiration for looking at it through this lens came from my own journey and navigating all of the things that immediately happen when you begin treatment. And it is not just the changes that happen that are so significant, it's also the speed at which these changes occur. And the ability to, as a patient, to navigate through all of that and really understand all dimensions of what beauty is and what it means is really hard. And so we wanted to put all this together because these issues are very related and they're often talked about separately, and they should not be. So we think that beauty is about looking at all of it from inside all the way to the outside. And to guide us through the discussion tonight, we're joined by a panel of experts that are going to walk us through each of these pillars. So let me tell you a little bit about each of the folks that are joining us tonight. First off, we have Elizabeth Constance, who rejoins us. Elizabeth was on our podcast series earlier this year, where she talked about coping strategies from the book that she co-authored with Dr. Marsha Linehan. So Liz is back to share how some of those very practices can also apply to this topic and this subject of beauty. Elizabeth, for those that do not know her, is a licensed clinical social worker. She's a psychotherapist in private practice, and she also serves on the faculty of the Westchester Center for Psychoanalysis and Psychotherapy. She's also a cancer survivor. So she's going to guide us through this first pillar of feelings and how we cope with all of that. And one of the prizes that we're also giving tonight is we will select 10 lucky winners that are going to get a copy of Liz's phenomenal book called Coping with Cancer. Again, it's a terrific read. I wish that it had been out when I first started my journey, but I'm thankful that it's out now. The second pillar that we're going to talk about tonight focuses on food. And we know that food is often a coping mechanism, but it's also a significant component when people are going through a cancer diagnosis and treatment, because of all the side effect management and all the issues that tax that element of how we eat and what we choose to eat. So we are lucky very much to have Stacey Roberts Davis join us tonight to guide us through that segment. Stacey is a registered dietitian. She works directly with oncology patients. She's also a culinary expert and the president of Flavorful Nutrition. Tonight, we are going to have one winner that will also be eligible to receive a virtual consultation with Stacey one-on-one. So we're very excited about that. Our third segment is about movement, and Jill Callahan is going to guide us through what this means, because choosing exercise when you're going through a treatment journey is a really, really tricky thing. And it's not just about any exercise, because cancer patients have to deal with joint pain and neuropathy and a host of other issues. So choosing the right exercise regimen and the right type of instructor to guide you through that is really critical. And Jill is going to join us again to talk about that and share some best practices. Jill is a certified personal fitness instructor and Pilates instructor. She has her own Pilates studio and private practice. And as part of that, tonight we'll also choose one lucky winner that will be eligible for a one-on-one virtual consultation with Jill. The last segment of our pillar is on beauty on the outside. So the skincare, not just the cosmetic side of this. And we have Tatiana Morales is going to join us to kind of walk us through these pieces. What is the right routine that we should set up? What is the awareness that we have to have around product and labels and really understanding all of that before we use something? Tatiana is an oncology trained licensed esthetician. She also has her own company called Wellness on Wheels, and she's done many seminars specifically with oncology patients to help them cope through the pieces of how do you navigate once you have all of these changes happening to you. So we're very happy to have her here with us, and we have two winners that we will select that will receive gift certificates for Tatiana's session. Those are for South Florida based folks only. So I welcome our distinguished panel. You can see them here on the side of the screen as well. And we're going to start off with the first pillar around our feelings. And with that, I'm going to ask Liz to take over the mic, and Liz kind of walk us through. I know when I started to go through this journey, there were a host of emotions that I didn't even understand or processing. I lost my hair, my eyebrows, my eyelashes, and all the physical changes. And I didn't understand how to quite cope with all of that and the magnitude of everything else. So welcome tonight. And I know you'll walk us through some of these practices.
Thanks so much, Amelia. I'm so glad to be here. So as Amelia said, our sense of beauty is not just about what's happening on the outside, but it's really about how you're feeling on the inside, what's going on in your body, in your heart, and in your mind. And indeed, what's happening to you physically, emotionally, and your thoughts about it are constantly influencing each other. It's like a circle, and that they continually impact each other. And then they impact your actions, what you do and what you don't do, how much you eat, how much you exercise, what beauty regime you have. So tonight we're going to try briefly to understand our feelings. And to do that, it's really useful to pay attention to your emotions. But that's not always so easy. Our emotions are often misunderstood. So what are our emotions? Our emotions are really sensations in our body and our brain that send nonverbal signals about what's happening. And they're sent through our face or our heart rate or our tone of voice or our posture. And some emotions actually have a bad reputation. People sometimes believe they should avoid being frightened or angry or sad or being anxious. But it's really in your interest not to give yourself a hard time about that, because those feelings are there for very good reason. Sadness is a really understandable response to losing someone or things that you've counted on having, how you can live or how you look. Fear and anxiety make sense when there's a threat to your health or anything that makes you feel safe and secure, which may be your appearance. Your anger is a common reaction to pain, and it's understandable to be frustrated or agitated if you believe cherished activities, relationships, or how you feel about yourself may now be compromised. Your emotions send valuable messages that elicit action. It's emotion. And they let you know that there's a perceived threat to your physical or emotional safety. And your body actually communicates faster than words, and we respond instinctively without even having to stop and think about it. So fear and anxiety, when we're frightened, our pounding heart tells us that we want to avoid the threat of danger. And that message is there for a great reason. Think about the caveman who had a lion in front of him and his heart rate was pounding. And so he was frightened and he knew to run. Now, fear and anxiety have the exact same message. But the complicating thing here is fear is not the lion. Anxiety is not the lion in front of you. Anxiety is about something in the future, some physical danger in the future or emotional danger in the future. And the message with anxiety is to do something about a threat that might happen and might not happen. So with anxiety, sometimes the action we want to do might be in our best interest and it might not. Now, our anger focuses us on self-defense, mastery, and control. Our pounding heart signals a need to protect against a threat, to speak up for what we need. And sadness is a response to losing someone or something that you have or that you expected to have. And it can focus you on what's most important. Maybe now your health, maybe your self-esteem, maybe your appearance. And those emotions can also be signals to other people, intentionally or unintentionally, that let them know. For example, if we're sad and we have downcast eyes and we have drooping postures, it might let another person know that we're sad and something's wrong, and it may be helpful to reach out for support. So it's really important to try to not avoid how you feel and pay attention to those valuable messages. Actually, it's not really even possible to ignore those feelings, even if you want to. Trying to block your emotions actually increases stress and intensifies the feeling, and the emotion comes back even stronger. What's more, research shows that emotional repression and suppression is associated with a poorer cancer prognosis. So we do understand that there are times that emotions may feel problematic, and it's very valuable to be aware that our feelings at times may be more powerful than is useful. So let's understand how that happens and what you can do about it. Physiologically, those sensations only last for 90 seconds. Yet you would look at me like I'm crazy. I feel the feelings for longer. Why does that happen? Remember, I said in the beginning, your body and thoughts keep those emotions going. So when you want to change your physical feelings, you can focus on your body. Tonight, we're going to talk about how you can focus on your thoughts. So when you're angry, your continued thinking about what causes your anger, that's what keeps your anger going. And when you're sad, focusing on what you've lost keeps you even sadder. And when you're anxious, continually imagining what might go wrong increases your upset. So what else do we do in our thinking when we're upset? We make judgments about what's right, wrong, good, or bad. And we may have assumptions. Our assumptions are ideas that are not based on facts, and they can be unnecessarily upsetting and upset us more. Perhaps you're assuming critical things about yourself. And that's a terrible assumption because self-doubt is so common and pervasive with cancer. We're often saying to ourselves, what's the matter with me? Am I doing this right? And self-critical ideas about what you should or shouldn't feel may keep you not respecting your natural reactions, deciding on what you should feel, that maybe you tell yourself you should be more positive or more upbeat, or you should look in a different way. The other things that we can do is blame ourselves for things that are out of our control. And while self-criticism gives you the illusion of control, it can be a really self-destructive habit, and it increase our anxiety and hopelessness. We call that self-blame the second arrow, because first a bad thing happens to us, and then we blame ourselves. It's like shooting ourselves a second time. So what can we do? The first thing is to be aware of our thoughts, and we do that by checking the facts. We check the facts by assessing what we're thinking and checking out whether our assumptions are accurate. Is the threat very likely to happen? The next way we can manage those emotions is this neuroscience expression, name it to tame it. What does that mean? It means that we understand from neuroscience that when we identify our emotion and put a label on it, we can calm our nervous system. And research has shown that understanding and identifying emotions reduces their intensity. Actually, in the book, I go through lots of different ways that helps you learn by looking at your body and your thoughts to identify what emotions you're going through, because it has been shown that cancer patients who could categorize and label their emotions showed improved coping and other health benefits. Lastly, we use a technique called self-talk. And that's because research tells us that the most important factor in your capacity to cope has been shown your faith in your ability to do so. And self-compassion has been shown to strengthen our resilience and put problems in perspective, and may even affect our immune response. And it can decrease the grip of our negative thinking, depression, and anxiety. So you want to notice that you're being hard on yourself. Are you being critical of your coping style? Because however you're coping, whether you're very emotional or very restrained, that your response to stress makes sense, even if it's different from someone else's, because it's shaped by your genes and your past emotional and physical difficulties. So you want to be kinder to yourself with that self-talk and less critical of your understandable reactions. When you change the words and the tone that you use with yourself, that changes your emotions. So you want to talk to yourself in a kind and reassuring way, like a dear friend or a benevolent grandmother who believes in you. I'm sorry this is so difficult. I like to use the expression, just like me. Anyone else in my shoes is likely to feel just like me. I wish I didn't have this stress. It's possible, but it is possible to find ways to cope with these challenges. I'll turn it back to you, Amelia.
Thank you so much for that, Liz. And I think what I appreciate of what you shared here is that these are feelings that need to be recognized, because a lot of times people will say, people think that I'm fine because I look fine on the outside, but there's so much going on the inside. And so we're purposely starting, and I so appreciate you walking through these pieces that help us with applying these concepts to all those emotions that are pulsing through us at any point in time, because there's so many of them. And if we don't understand them, or if we undermine them, they show up in different ways that are really destructive for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you for that. As we move into our second segment, a lot of times we think about food as a nutrient, but food is often a source of comfort for us. And in some cases, we choose the wrong things for that comfort. And to layer on top of that complexity is when you're navigating through a cancer journey, there are so many things that are affecting your digestive choices and the side effects and all of the things that come with that. I know I've struggled with that throughout this journey. And so, Stacy, I'd love for you to give us your insights and the work that you do with folks that are going through this, and how that all applies into this whole piece of navigation. So over to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And food, yeah, it's one of our biggest coping mechanisms, I feel. We turn to food for everything. And of course, we could blame mom for it. You always got to blame mom. But that's what we learn as kids like we celebrate. So what do? We eat. Or if you're sad, you eat. It makes you happy. And as you grow up, you still do that. And we want to learn other ways to cope instead of food. And with cancer diagnosis, it is so confusing, because you have people who love you and care about you, caregivers, families, friends, everyone wants to help you. And they're all throwing their ideas of what they hear of what to eat, what not to eat. And you're so confused and your mind is going crazy of, well, what do I do? And then even just the thought of what caused my cancer. Was it what I was eating? That's a whole big other, thing, but we have to learn how to cope with food, or how to cope with our emotions in other ways. So yes, sometimes we emotionally eat, and it has to do with a lot of things. If it's the cancer diagnosis, boredom, anxiety, depression, excitement, sometimes it turns to food. So there are other things we could do besides focusing on food. And I'm not saying every time you are stressed to do something else, you still need food to nourish your body. We still need the energy. We need fats, carbs, and proteins, but we just need to learn to listen to our body a little bit. We'll get into that a little bit, but other ideas of coping if you are stressed, if it's reading a book, pick a magazine, there are magazines that you could buy, you could touch, not just through a computer, but read a magazine, read a book, even watch movies, a funny movie, a sad movie, whatever it is, instead of turning to food. Even yoga, meditation, I think is great. I'm always promoting doing meditation, just focusing on your breath. Even starting a new hobby, we've all been locked in our homes, but try something new. If it's arts and crafts or something on the computer, even gardening or growing herbs, I think is a great new something you could do to help the earth and, better yourself. Exercise is a great alternative to eating, but also you want to go down to the root cause of why you're eating, if it is stress, and listening to your body. Even if it is, going back to the hunger scale, listening to your body, that if you are hungry, 1 to 10. So you want to start eating when you're about a 3. So 1 is when you are so hungry, you could eat anything. And 10 being that you are so full, like your Thanksgiving Day full, and you're ready to roll over. You really want to start eating when you're about a 3. When you're hungry, and then finish off when you're about a 7, because we don't want to get to that full thing. So I'll get more into that too. But, you want to ask yourself, why are you eating? Like when you keep opening in the refrigerator and looking for something and you're looking for something, but you don't really know what it is. Well, are you really hungry or are you bored? And also sometimes we crave different snacks. Sometimes we're in the mood for something really crunchy and salty. So instead of doing potato chips, I mean, you could do the bake chips if you wanted, but you could do popcorn, like make yourself popcorn at home, or even doing a carrot and celery with some hummus, because at least you're getting some of that crunchy texture that you're craving with a little bit of salty. Or if you are craving something sweet, instead of going for that big thing of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, you can make like a chocolate chia pudding and it craves your sweet tooth. But sometimes when you are craving those types of food, it's not going to solve the problem. Like the sweetness, it might satisfy you at that moment, but then with the sugar, you get the highs and the lows. So you might feel high, but then you go straight down to the low. So that could increase your craving for sweets later. So I'm not a big fan of doing those artificial sweetener snacks if it's like the sugar-free stuff, because that's even worse with the cravings. So you really want to watch out for all the extra sweets that you're eating. And you want to focus on your good foods, your whole foods that get your serotonin levels up, because that's what makes you feel good. So exercise helps with that. Your antioxidants help with that. So your fruits, your vegetables, all are full of fiber and nutrients that will help you with that. So an alternative to cakes and cookies, you could always make things at home. So I like to make a peanut butter ball with oatmeal and so a little bit of chocolate chips, and I like to use almond butter, but that's like something sweet that you could chew and it satisfies your sweet tooth a little bit. Also, sometimes we want to fight stress, so I don't know if you've ever noticed, but people say, oh, have some tea. But tea is something great to have because it helps calm you down and it helps reduce your stress levels, even just the breathing. And if you're snacking at night, so if you start notice that you're snacking at night, that can mean that you're not eating enough during the day. And I know sometimes people like to cut things out of their diet, carbs. Just gonna say it, that's the biggest thing that people want to cut out of their diet. But if you're not eating enough of it during the day, at night you might crave it more. So go for if you were in the mood for something sweet, you could always go for strawberries or cherries because they're sweet, they have fiber, it'll satisfy your sweet tooth. Even sometimes I like to get dark chocolate and I shave dark chocolate on top of strawberries. So now I have chocolate covered strawberries, but it's not completely dipped into it. Also, sometimes, we can't sleep at night. That's one of the biggest things I hear. It's hard to sleep. Just your mind is racing. You can't sleep. The sleep isn't as good as it was before. But having foods that help with natural melatonins could help. So like your omega-3 fatty fishes could help. Your salmon could also help with your melatonin levels. You could do the melatonin pills, but you really want to take like 2 hours before you go to sleep. You don't want to take it right before your sleep. But also dark chocolate helps. Your grains, your nuts, your legumes, they all have benefits that could help ease your mind and help you relax a little bit. And also not knowing what to eat. I think the biggest thing is all the confusion. So if you guys have the chat, let me know what your biggest confusion is with food, because I would love to hear it. But just sometimes you don't feel like eating, so I'm talking about, listening to the hunger scale. But when you're going through treatment and you're having all of these side effects, like the hunger scale is kind of not going to work. Just because you lose when you're hungry, just because you have all the side effects. If you're nauseous, you don't want to eat. If you're fatigued, you don't want to eat. So sometimes you have to put yourself on a schedule and setting a timer, whatever you have to do to remind yourself to eat something. Even if you're not hungry, I beg, just a bite, just a little bit, just a spoonful of yogurt, just a mouthful of something, because the calories will add up throughout the day. So number one, for fatigue, if you are tired, that's one of the biggest side effects I hear. Number one, I know you guys are going to hate me for saying this. I think it's Jill who does the yoga and all that. Exercise. We have to move. That helps with the fatigue. I know it's so much nicer just to lay on the couch, but it's going to make the fatigue worse. So we need to move. We need to, not saying you have to go to a gym, just walk. Do something is better than nothing. Also, another thing for fatigue is drink water. Easy peasy fix, because if you're not drinking enough water, you could be dehydrated, which leads to fatigue. Drink water. I know the doctors probably tell you that, the nurses. Flavor it up if it gets boring. Once again, set the timer to remind you to drink, but flavor up your water if it's not delicious for you. Add watermelon to your water, add mango, add whatever it is to flavor it up so it's not as boring, but just make sure that you're drinking enough water. And your body and your hands are a great indication of hydration. So if you take your hand and you pinch it and your skin stays like that, that's a sign of dehydration. And I hope no one's eating, but this is the best way to, one of the best ways to know if you're dehydrated is look in the toilet when you go to the bathroom, because the color of the urine will tell you. If it is a bright yellow color, you need to drink more. If it's light yellow and clear, that means you're hydrated. So that's a good, easy way to know if you're hydrated. Also with fatigue, eat. Just because if you're not eating, your body is just breaking down your muscle, and we don't want it to do that. So you need to eat fats, proteins, and carbs. We need to eat all of it. Another side effect I hear is like a metallic taste, or things don't taste well. So you could do mints, sometimes help with the metallic taste. Or if everything tastes salty to you, the opposite of salty is sweet. So eat more sweet foods. If things are tart, add more salt to it, because those are the opposite. So it could help balance it out. Even flavoring up your food with herbs and spices and marinades could help. And there's even also a fruit called miracle fruit. You could chew on it. It makes everything taste sweeter. I did a taste test with it and we sucked a lemon. And that was the best lemon I've ever had, where I went back for seconds because it made it so sweet. So that's another thing you could do for the taste. And poor appetite, just small little meals. Like I said, setting the timer for yourself, making sure that everything you eat is worthwhile. So try to add as many calories to it. Add olive oil to your food, add nut butters. Those are great ways to add some extra calories. And if you are having a poor appetite, setting yourself up, like setting up a schedule for yourself of what times you're eating, definitely helps. So I think I'm done with my time, but my biggest takeaways is listening to your body, going back to basics, know when you're hungry, know when you're bored, and setting yourself up for a schedule if you are going through treatment and not eating well. Do the hunger scale. I think it's great way of indicating things, and also keeping track of what you're eating, keeping a journal. I think you learn so much about yourself. I started doing it with myself, and you see how many calories you eat, how much protein you eat. It just opens your eyes. I'm not saying relying on it, but it's just a great way to see what you are eating and eat real food. You can eat the foods and even what you do crave. So we really want to eat and stay hydrated.
Thank you so much, Stacey, for that. I found it very helpful to keep the food journal, especially the week of treatment, because I started to then compare from treatment to treatment. I've now had over 100 treatments in 3 years. So I've gotten pretty good at knowing what to eat the week of. But at the beginning of the treatment process, I found that because I would learn, I'm a big salad eater, but salads didn't do well for me the week of treatment. And so I started eating gentler foods during those days just to kind of bounce back a little bit more. There were a couple of questions that came into the chat while you were doing your segment. We're going to pause the Q&A to the end, because there were some really good ones that came through. Plus we've got a couple that were sent in advance, but thank you so much for that. And you mentioned movement in your segment. We're going to have Jill kind of walk us through this next phase of it. So hopefully you guys are seeing kind of this thread of how we start to feel, what choices we then make with how we provide nutrients to our bodies, and how we manage our diet and choices. And the next natural piece is what's the right exercise routine. You know, it's really, really challenging when you're going through a cancer treatment, because not every exercise can work for you. And some people will say, you know, I used to be a runner, I can't run anymore because I'm having all this pain because of the soles of my feet, feel like I'm walking on hot coals. That's neuropathy, has that effect. The same thing can happen to joint pain and all of that. For me, one of the metastases that I had with my diagnosis actually fractured one of my ribs. And it was so painful that I didn't even realize what had happened. I had never broken a rib before. I hope I never do in my life again. But it was that fracture that really just changed everything that I had to do in terms of thinking about my exercise. And that's when I started working with Jill almost 3 years ago to really target what is the right routine, because it's tricky when you're going through a cancer journey. So Jill, I'll hand over to you to talk about. I know you want to highlight specifically on Pilates, which has been a game changer for me for the better. So I hand over to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Amelia. When you meet Amelia, you know immediately that she's sharp and she's energetic and she's very thoughtful, but she's also funny. And I have to say that interjecting humor is always a big part of, conscious part of Amelia's approach to all of this. And it's so refreshing, and she makes me laugh. I tell her she could be a stand-up comedian. But her approach to all of this was very methodical. As you are learning today, all 4 elements are the things that she outlined to me when I met her, focusing on her diet, focusing on exercise, of course, therapy, and then the external skincare and all the other elements that will be addressed right after me. One of the things that's really confusing, I think, to a lot of people is what is Pilates and how is it different than yoga? I think yoga gets used a lot. I think yoga is more commonly heard. They are similar in many ways, but they also have differences. And I think so many people are intimidated by Pilates because they just simply don't know what it is. And I think the number one thing I want to say today is that one size doesn't fit all. And so I'm just going to talk about some of the elements that that we work towards in Amelia's continuing healing and her journey. So I'm just going to start with the differences kind of between Pilates and yoga. They both are mind-body exercises. But I think Pilates more informs the brain. The brain is really the most important muscle that you have. And so much of our work is me talking, and I'm not demonstrating, but I'm talking, and Amelia's listening. And so I like to say that I'm the conductor, but she's the director of her body through all of the cueing. And the cueing is not just physical action, but breath work. And both yoga and Pilates use both breath work and certainly muscle contraction. I want to just say a little bit about Pilates and how it started, because I think it kind of speaks to its healing properties. The origin of Pilates really started with Joseph Pilates, who was from Germany. And he was a sickly child. And so he just began studying anatomy, started reading books, and he also studied animals out in the woods in nature to see how they moved. And then he also was studying yoga at the same time. So he was incorporating all of these elements. And by the time he was 14, he became an actual model for anatomy charts, because he really wanted to understand the body from the inside out. And when World War I broke out, he interned at a German camp. And that's where he really started rehabilitating soldiers. And that's where he created the method of opposition and using springs. The springs came from the cots from the hospitals. And so he began using those springs to create this oppositional workout that used your own body strength and that didn't tax the body. It wasn't heavy weightlifting. It didn't strain the body. And then he captioned sort of this whole program with the term movement heals. And I think that's the one thing that I want everybody to take away from this, whether you choose yoga, Pilates, or some other form of exercise, that movement truly does heal. And I know Amelia can attest to that. Some of the benefits of Pilates is, as we said, we're focusing on core strengthening, which is slightly different than yoga. So we work a lot on strengthening the core, and the core isn't just your stomach muscles. Your core is really everything from your shoulders to your knees. So it includes your glutes and your hamstrings, your back, your side body. And again, we use breath work to connect to the core. We also emphasize lengthening of the muscles. You hear about stretching in yoga and Pilates, but in Pilates, we like to create opposition by thinking about lengthening every muscle and lengthening your spine. So in every exercise, that's our primary focus. And again, we create that through opposition, whether we're just using our own body or we're using springs or we're using apparatus, whether it's a reformer or a tower or many other apparatus that are used in Pilates. So I want to kind of move on now to choosing your instructor. Amelia came to me through a phone call through the studio, and it was someone that I had mentored in Pilates that answered the phone. And when Amelia explained what she was looking for, my mentee knew exactly that I was the right person for Amelia and vice versa. So she explained to me what she was looking for, and just that yoga didn't really speak to her. And it wasn't necessarily the practice of yoga, but probably more the approach that was taken by the instructor. When you agree with that. And so she started with me, and she understood very quickly that every day was different, and we didn't approach every day with a specific rigid routine. Rather, I took the temperature every day with her, and I say take the temperature meaning, how's she feeling? What's going on with her that day? When did she have treatment? Is she tired? Is she down emotionally? And so some days we simply just breathed and stretched, and other days we might have gotten more deeper into the core work and lengthening work. And some days, as she said, with her rib situation, we sat in a chair and we moved from a chair. And so Pilates doesn't mean that you have to be a super athlete or that you have to be at a certain level of fitness. It's not one size fits all. And so finding the right instructor is so important in getting what you need out of the practice. And getting what you need should be, when you leave from me, you feel a whole lot better than when you came in. And whether that's through breathing, or you had a little more vigorous workout, or we just stretched and lengthened the body that day. So again, just kind of taking that approach. And so I would recommend, if you were to begin a practice with Pilates, that you would start by taking a few private lessons, because in a class you will not get the kind of instruction and cueing that you would get from a private. I can't stress that enough, how important kind of that one-on-one with the proper cueing is how important it is for you to understand the practice, because it does take time. We talked about reading the body and taking the temperature, and again, every day being different, and just kind of mixing in a little bit of yoga at the same time. So part of our breath work is taken from yoga, back from Joseph Pilates' original development of the program. So one's not better than the other. I just want to stress that. It's really what speaks to you. So that's really, the most important thing, is finding what's right for you, and choosing the method and the instructor that speaks to you. I think Amelia would like me to just take a minute and just take you through what kind of a really basic beginning of Pilates session might look like. So let's just assume we're all seated. And so you're sitting in your chair. You focus a lot on the core strength, which leads to our posture and just the way we carry ourselves. So many times we would We would start in a seated position. And we would start with breath work. Again, just closing your eyes, taking a nice big breath in through the nose and thinking about expanding your ribs and taking the air all the way down to the bottom of the belly. And on the exhale, as you breathe out, that's your signal, that's your muscle signal, that's your brain signal to relax. Let your body, let your muscles let go. And again, taking another big deep breath in and start to take that breath through the limbs, through the legs, through the arms and legs. And again, on the exhale, just feeling the body becoming alive and awakening the body. And then we would start moving, maybe just simply by bending our knees with our hands behind the thighs. And we would start by creating what we call a C curve, which is the curvature in the spine. And in Pilates, it's all about creating that curve in your exercise and then also creating extension, so the opposite movement. So we're constantly flexing and extending the body. So all of that rhythm and extension and flexion sends all that oxygenated blood through the body, which really aids and really speaks to the healing process. So back to the rib. I mean, we just did so much breathing into that rib and into the chest cavity and really centering and focusing on that energy there. And it just, she's just an incredible student. What a great listener. Really, Pilates is so much about listening, number one. And then another exercise just is simply bringing your arms up and out to the side. And as the arms are out to the side, we're not just lifting the arms, but we're reaching them away from our core, from the center of our body. And so we might do an exercise where we bring the elbows in to our ribs and then reach the arms back out to the side and feeling the two arms reaching in opposite directions. And you feel when you do that, if everyone could just take a moment and do that, just feel how every muscle is lengthening as you're reaching away from your body. Again, pulling the elbows in and then reaching the arms away and reaching out through the fingertips. So the exercise can be as simple and as quiet as needed, or it can be as vigorous as you're up to for that moment. So that's really it in a nutshell, I would say.
Thank you so much for that, Jill. And I can't say enough about all the work that you do. We had some comments come through around, some folks are in smaller towns and may not know of any instructors. I would say one of the benefits that's also come out is virtual sessions. And so we do our training virtually, obviously, because of COVID, we've had restrictions on that. And so one of the things I also appreciate about this exercise is that you can do so remotely, being guided through it without needing a lot of physical equipment or actually being in a studio. We are going to do, by the way, as we did with Liz, we did a dedicated podcast with Liz when she walked us through all these pieces. We're going to do the same with each of the folks that are speaking tonight. So you're getting a little bit of a primer, and then we're going to do a more in-depth, 20-minute or so podcast where we can dedicate it solely to the subject. Tonight, we wanted to give you a little bit of all these pillars that kind of shape how we tackle this, beauty component and managing that through treatment. So thank you, Jill, for that. We're going to turn it over next to Tatiana, who's going to talk to us about how we manage the outside. And I first attended her session about 2.5 years ago when it was a low point in my treatment. My treatment process began with complete response, and then very quickly the cancer came back and it was very aggressive and nothing was responding. And then on top of that, I was obviously, as many of us, dealing with all of the external challenges that happen to your body at the same time. And one of the things that was really troubling me, to be honest, was that I was unable to really draw my eyebrows back. Every time I drew them on, I looked very angry. And to Liz's point, right, recognizing the emotion, I was feeling the emotion. I was aware that I was feeling it. I just didn't want it to also be showing on my face permanently. And so I decided to do something, outside of my regular routine. And I went to a webinar on beauty tips and really caring for your skin properly during treatment. Tatiana was the host and she did an amazing job. And so with that, I turn it over to you, Tatiana, to kind of help us with understanding also how to really read products and understand what to do, especially when you're active in chemotherapy. So over to you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope you can hear me. Okay. As Emilia was saying, skincare, we can extend a lot, but today we're basically going to be talking about ingredients. And as you know, skincare is the largest organ of our body. And we are exposed normally in a daily basis, like between 9 and 15 products. And if you start counting, from head to toe, the shampoo, deodorant, lotions, everything, basically everything. And we need to pay attention to those. Sometimes in our skincare, just for the creams that we put, the hydration that we use, we try to avoid anything that is harsh to the skin, like vitamin A or any scrubs or anything that will damage the skin, because it is so delicate during this time that we just don't want to do that. We normally try to avoid synthetic fragrances. And even if you say, or it says that it's fragrance free, sometimes they hide the fragrance in the ingredients. So we really need to pay attention to those. The artificial dyes, those are colors, and those are listed as FD and C and followed by a number. So if you see anything like that, we should definitely avoid them. Alcohol, anything that it's with alcohol, please avoid, because that will dry your skin more. I was talking to a client, and she's in radiation right now. And I asked her to use aloe in the radiation part just to calm the skin. And she said, well, any aloe. And I said, no, not any. You need to go and get actually the plant, because in the aloes that you find over the counter, some of them, they do have alcohol, and that's something that we don't want to use. Parabens and preservatives, such as, and I'm sorry for my pronunciation, but they are so difficult to pronounce. It's ethyl paraben or butyl parabens. Those are, something that we should definitely avoid. In skincare, when you go natural and organic, you also need to be very careful, because even if they are natural, they need to have a preservative, because otherwise you will have, they will go bad. And that's something that we don't want. So alternatives include phenoxyethanol, Japanese honeysuckle, radish root. Those are just natural preservatives that we will like to look for. Okay. Skin lightenings with hydroquinone, it's something that we should avoid as well. And the ingredients that we should look for are more, as I said, aloe, the beeswax. Calendula oil is something that I love calendula for everything. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say, I hope so, Emilia, that Bodyceuticals, that is calendulaskincare.com, they do sell the best calendula, the most natural one. It's organic, and that's the one that I normally suggest to all my clients. So that is something that you can use when you are going through chemo, when you have cuts, when you have a sunburn, when you have anything. I mean, it's just amazing. So chamomile as well to calm the skin, cocoa butter, shea butter, avocado oil, coconut oil. All of those oils are really amazing to your skin and to hydrate the skin. Okay. Be more careful with essential oils. Even though they say they are good, they can actually damage your skin. So you always want to have a carrier oil to put the essential oil on. Those carrier oils could be jojoba. That is actually one of my favorites because it's very similar to our sebum. So it is a very nice one. The shea buckthorn, squalane, that it's the olive derivative, and tamanu oil is another one that it's super good for scars. It's really nice. Rose hip and castor oil, that's another one. For skin, hair, nail care during, after, and treatment, the castor oil for the hair It's really good for the eyebrows and the eyelashes. Even if you haven't lost them all, you can put them on your eyelashes and on your eyebrows, and it will help you to grow, okay? You should develop routines for proper care, especially with your nails during chemotherapy. You are not supposed to cut the cuticles. You only push it, okay? You push them back, and you should hydrate your nails, especially with you ladies with breast cancer. I see a lot of damage in the nails. So there is nothing really we can do when you lift the nail or when you lose your nails, but you need to hydrate the bed of the nail. So when the new one comes out, it comes nice and strong and hydrated. So that's something that you should do. For the hair, even if you don't have hair, you should always stimulate your scalp, because that will help you once your hair starts growing back. It will help also to give, like, to fortify the follicle. So you should definitely do that. You can continue using any shampoo unless you're using Head and Shoulders or something like that is super aggressive. Don't do it. Otherwise, you can use something natural, again, that you can find in Whole Foods or any other place that it doesn't have so many chemicals. If you cannot read the ingredients, that's something that it's like, okay, there are too many ingredients and this is not good. So the less ingredients will be, the better, okay? Things that you should also avoid with your nails is to have fake nails. We don't want to go and put our hands in the acetone, because that will damage the nail very bad. So that's something that we don't want. And I forgot to mention also that we recommend is not going to do your nails or your pedicure in any place, because we don't know how they disinfect. And so that's, if you can avoid it, it will be much better. You do it, or maybe if you have somebody that you trust that can come to your house and you can use your items to clean, your tools to do your manicure and pedicure, that's something different. And even then you should disinfect everything, okay? Don't have your hands for too long in water. Use gloves when you are doing chores at home. Don't go gardening for too long either. You should use gloves as well. And as I said, just at night, you can massage your nails, put some olive oil, or you can any other oil or shea butter or anything, and you can just, hydrate them that way, okay? Techniques for tips, as Emily was saying, the eyebrows, it's something super big. Some women, they still care about losing the hair, but as Emilia was saying, it's more traumatic to lose the eyebrows. And it is normal, because the eyebrows is like the frame of your skin, of your face. So without eyebrows, you don't feel very good. So I have a very nice technique, fast. I already did half of it because of time. But the way, if you haven't lost your eyebrows, I will suggest you to take a picture of your face and where the eyebrows are, because sometimes, even though you can see a little bit of shadow, sometimes you can't. So that way you know exactly where they are, okay? And the way I did it here in my little mannequin is I put a little eyeshadow just to give the shadow where I'm gonna draw my eyebrows, okay? Then after that, I did 3 points, and the points are, when you are looking straight into the mirror, you go and you use the pen, and this is the pencil, and you put the first mark here. The second one is when you are looking straight into the mirror, where the color of your eye finishes, that is the second point. And the third point will be from the corner of your nose going all the way here to the end of the eye. That will be your third point. So I don't know if you can see it here. Okay, I have my 3 points there. And what you're gonna do after that is you're gonna fill them in, you know, connect the dots. And especially from the first to the second one, it's gonna be thicker than from the second to the third one. The key is to have your pencil very sharp. So, and make a movement, a feathery movement. That way it looks very like hair. And I'm gonna do it very fast here. But this is the feathery movement will be more like that. So you do like that, you go again, connecting the dots. And then after that, if you have a little brush like this one, you know, like we normally have, then you just go on top just to make it a little bit softer and more natural, okay? Again, I'm doing it this very fast because of time. Then after that, you can put translucent powder. That way it will stay there, okay? And the other one, the other trick, just when you are home and sometimes you get cold in your head, it's to have a turban, make a turban with your t-shirt. So you can get a t-shirt, cut it underneath the armpits. This one is already cut, okay? And I hope you can see me. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna put the t-shirt like if you were gonna wear it. I'm just gonna put it like that, okay? And after that, I'm gonna turn on, I hope you can hear me. You're gonna go like this and you're gonna start turning here, okay? And then you're gonna go one on top of the other one side of top of the other one, and you're gonna go up. And it's gonna be just like that. And you can always put a little scarf like all around. And in Claire's, they also sell the flowers and little decorations that you can put on top, and it looks just amazing. So that is something else that you can do, okay? So my key to take away will be, don't get crazy with the ingredients, okay? If you can start like starting when you finish one product, get to the other one, being more cautious on what the ingredients are, and then just go to the next one and to the next one. Don't throw everything away and start clean, because that is not gonna help you, okay? Baby, your skin, hair, and your nails. Again, just give them some love. Even if you don't have hair, just go ahead and massage your scalp. Also hydrate it. You can also put oils. You can also put the shea butter, anything. As I said, castor oil, it's another one very good. And with the new techniques, just remember that the eyebrows are sisters. They are not twins. They are not going to be exactly the same. So don't get crazy and don't get perfectionists, okay? Just try it, because if you continue trying it, the first time, maybe it's not going to be the best, but then I'm sure the second one and the third one is you're going to be pros in doing it, okay? And still, after you get your eyebrows back, I fill them in. You know, I don't have perfect eyebrows, so I still put some pencil in. So that is a technique that you can use with or without eyebrows, okay? I also wanted to share something, an app that I have in my phone, that it's easier for me to check on all the products instead of reading, you know, all the ingredients. And probably you know what it is. The webpage is www.cosmeticsdatabase.com. It's the same EWG.org. is the same thing. And there is an app as well that I have it in my phone that it's EWG Healthy Living is what it's called. So you can download it and it's super easy. You can just scan the barcode in the back of all the products, and it tells you if it's good or if it's not good, or why, you know, it's not good, or the ingredient that it has. So back to you.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. That was very good. Thank you for those extra tips. And for the folks that are on, I know there were some questions about the sites that were quoted. We're going to take, because I know we're obviously a little bit over time, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. What we will do is we will take all of the information that Tatiana shared, as well as the other speakers that reference the website or a particular product. We'll put those on our website so that you can go through it and have a complete listing of everything. Some of the questions that we got, I think you addressed a little bit later in your talk, Tatiana, specifically around the hydration for the nail beds, like coconut oil or other types of oils that help with that. So we'll formulate like a really quick FAQ document from the chat questions that we had, and we'll put those on our website before the end of the week. What we're also going to do is we're going to ensure that for the winners that get drawn from the list of registrations, we will contact those folks before the end of the week via email. So be on the lookout for that. I want to close with just a quick quote before we wrap up for tonight. And it is something that I came across recently that I really think applies to a lot of what we've been talking about tonight. And it is this. It is a quote by the legendary tennis great Arthur Ashe, and it is, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And I thought that these words were both, you know, simple, but also very profound in all of the challenges that we face when we're going through a cancer journey. I know we kind of threw a lot of different things at you this evening in terms of tips and guidance, but I think it's a good grounding quote to really emphasize, to start where you are and to really move from there so that you can be your best. We hope that tonight was something that was of value to you. That's always our intention with everything that we do with this group. I want to thank all of the panelists. I want to thank our sponsors and partners for making this possible. I want to thank all of you for supporting us through the donations that were done for the campaign. Before we started, we were already at around $6,300. And again, all of those proceeds will go to both Living Beyond Breast Cancer and Mediviver. And we're very happy that we're able to do that and to partner with them and with all of you. So with that, we thank you for being a part of this today and for supporting us. And we hope that it was of value to you. And from all of us here at How to Breast Cancer, the breastcancerguide.com, we wish you a beautiful night and that you continue living beautifully. Until next time, thanks. Bye-bye, everyone. Be well.
Bye-bye.
One.